film center of the school. It won't go away.
Mr. Tommy Conyers of Carborough High School teaches 2 sections of AP Environmental Science, 1 section of Physical Science, and 2 sections of Earth Science every day.
Certain students coming from the middle school based on what they've shown on test scores and so forth were not going to be successful in biology. So they were put in the Earth Science class.
I started tutoring in his class in late January, following a series of career crises, not unlike his own experience in becoming a teacher, after working in an environmental firm after college.
Basically doing a lot of groundwork and making nothing, very little room for advancement. So I started soul searching. What do I want to do with my life? I did that for about 2 years.
I have been doing some soul searching this semester too. Mr. Conyers worries about the quality of his students.
You knew that this is a situation where you're going to have students that are not going to be necessarily your academically strongest students. They're your fragile children with lots of multitude of issues. They're not all even the same. I mean, whether it be a learning disability or language problem or whatever. It's the first time that it's been this challenging. I've had some other 9th grade groups, but they weren't almost entirely fragile children.
So this semester, I have been working with Marla and Dean, 2 he felt would especially benefit from my tutoring. Marla is a Burmese 9th grader who enjoys coming to school and pays close attention during class. She struggles to understand English, though, and has to put everything she has into keeping up with a teacher during lectures. Ms. Collins is the English as a second language teacher for 8 classes in 2 different schools. Mr. Conyers has a seating arrangement set up so the ESL students are all in the far back corner to make Ms. Collins' visits as small a distraction to the rest of class as possible. When I spoke to her about Marla, she guessed that Marla had been in the U.S. for about 3 years and confirmed that she needs lots of careful support and scaffolding, starting from the most basic science concepts, to get her up to speed in Earth Science class. Ms. Collins' visits to Marla are few and far in between, so this often means the ESL students are not only without the extra support and attention they need, but they are also isolated in the perfect setup for distraction from classwork.
And these were the kids who were coming in that had limited organizational skills, study skills, just academic skills across the board. And it was sort of part of my goal became to address that as much as address the curriculum. But they need to have a routine for these students, and they need to, and it really does come down to structure.
Regarding his choices of assessment tools and class activities, Mr. Conyers says he uses primarily guided lecture notes and small written assignments. I saw that when students raise their hands about a slide, he does not call on them, but keeps speaking about the slide long enough to let many of the spur-of-the-moment curiosities I have seen die down. I am not passing a judgment here. However, Marla is an eager learner. I was able to connect the idea of different types of bunnies, her favorite animals, on different continents, with fossil records as evidence for continental drift. She was excited about seeing pictures of bunnies as much as she was interested by the idea that bunnies with larger ears live in hotter climates. But mind you, it took a good 10 minutes to teach her enough words through slow explanation, gestures, and pictures to convey this idea. I have been shadowing Mr. Conyers for additional time for another class, and sometimes he has me grading. Marla's grades have shown little improvement this semester, even though her adjusted instructional guidelines let her use notes on quizzes and tests. I worry that she does not get the clear instruction and engaging explanation that she needs to succeed in school, and much less in her struggle to feel at home in America. There are bigger problems than an analysis of Mr. Conyers' teaching methods here, but it strikes a deeper chord in me that this class is one step to her future that may already be laying shaky foundations. An hour before Marla's class every day, Dean's class takes the stage. Dean was recently diagnosed with a psychosocial disorder and was moved into Mr. Conyers' class after what Mr. Conyers deemed was burning bridges with classmates in his previous science class. I observed with great interest the interaction between Conyers and Dean. Enter Dean, poking his nose around the door, bulging red book bag slung on one shoulder. "You're late," Conyers says. "I was trying to be stealthy," Dean tells me, then shuffles to his seat in the front row. Lecture begins. Conyers pauses during a slide. "What kind of play boundary do you see here?" he asks. Classmates shout out guesses, essentially some vocabulary words thrown into the air. "A convergent boundary," Dean mutters quietly, towards Mr. Conyers, but not loud enough to be heard. I try to repeat for him and egg him to say it louder. "A convergent boundary." Conyers is listening to the other's answers and asking for the correct one. "Convergent boundary, convergent boundary," Dean says loudly. "Yes, the convergent boundary." Acknowledgement. Lecture continues. Dean seems content. But behind the scenes, the class doesn't know that Dean remembers the boundary type because he had a mnemonic for it. The previous tutoring day, the class was embarking on a WebQuest assignment using the school laptops. I am working one-on-one with Dean. He keeps talking about the structure of a computer and about file formats, driver usage, and capabilities of the machine that he had in front of him. So when we finally got started on the assignment and Dean seemed disinterested in the questions on the worksheet, I was able to hold his interest by entertaining his concerns about computers and relating them to a question on the assignment. For convergent and divergent boundaries, I told him about if and and statements in computer programming and related them to activating tectonic plates. When class dismissed that day, Dean asked Mr. Conyers if he could change something about the system settings to make the screensavers stop coming up so soon. I don't know what that means, so no, Mr. Conyers said curtly. I am not passing a judgment here.
I can philosophically tell you what's right, but I can also tell you that realistically, if you want some success and you want them to learn something, you have to decide what it is you want them to learn. And for them right now, learning the curriculum, but also learning how to be a student.
The next day, Dean turned in the WebQuest worksheet with little more than the work I had completed with him. Dean's grades have also shown little improvement this semester. Does he need more attention? More one-on-one interaction with instructors? Is the solution simply a more sensitive teacher? I asked Mr. Conyers how he gets to know his students.
And to be honest with you, you may not know all of them in the end. 6th and 7th period can be even more difficult because you pick your opportunities to try to talk to them about stuff that interests them, what's going on in their lives, and so forth. So you get a few minutes with them, literally, as class transitions. Also, it's difficult because the maturity level for them to not misinterpret that as you're their buddy and they can do whatever they want. It just takes more work to do that.
No, really, I am not passing a judgment. It is difficult for a teacher to give each and every student all the attention and care he or she needs. However, I have learned a few basic structures that I feel I should create in teaching my own classes. I believe in knowing and understanding students. I believe in interactive classes with less lecturing and more questions and answers. I believe in listening when students speak, because this gives them confidence in themselves and in me. I believe in making the most of my resources and refusing excuses to let myself fall short. My dreams are big, but I believe they are worth dreaming.